On this week's episode, could Tron 3 be a reality? Umbrella Academy and The Boys are coming back for season 2. And are Queeby's hopes set on Die Hard? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back for another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate you listening out there to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or if you can subscribe on Spotify or any of the other podcast apps that you use out there. Plus, also, you can go ahead, if possible, catch all of our great shows, including all the many Lakers Fast Breaks we've done in the past month, and also Inside Sports Fantasy Football. We've done episodes there, and also a couple shows that my next guest, or my fellow host, I should say, is has in the works as well, because it's just a great thing when you go ahead and support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. He's our own Sam Flynn of Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com. Also, as well, his great podcast, which I just mentioned, the Super BS Gamescast and Topicocalypse. Please 5-star those shows as well. And also, of course, his great book, Congratulations, You Suck. And don't forget, on popculturecosmos.com, you can check out his latest review of Alan Wake, The American Nightmare, right up there for you as well. It is my good friend. It is Josh the Magnificent. What's up, man?
What's up? Just, living, doing my thing, staying in the house, reading a lot of news about Netflix, by the way. Have you been seeing anything going on with them?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, I'm listening to other podcasts. I know I'm cheating on us, but I am listening to other podcasts, including one that I'm checking out now on Spotify called Land of the Giants. I've just ran through their season 1, which they recorded last year, several part series on Amazon. And now currently they're taking a, episode by episode for this season on season 2 for Netflix. And they're talking about the rise of Netflix, the issues that they've gone through, the battle against Blockbuster Video back in the day. So it's been some very interesting listening. But I know there's some stuff going on always with Netflix, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on what's going on with Netflix.
Well, I mean, their stock shares are rising and falling as per usual, but they're starting to ramp up production again, and most recently, we've been hearing things about Stranger Things. What else? There's something else. Umbrella Academy, which we'll talk about later. But I was just reading a thing saying Cowboy Bebop has resumed production, which I remember John Cho, the guy who's playing Spike on there, he hurt his leg a while back. So they've been on hold for a really long time, but now I guess they've been given the green light to resume production. I guess they're going to do that in New Zealand. So that's exciting. Still don't know how I feel about John Cho in that role, but I'm hoping for the best, because I think when I think of John Cho, I think like funny. I don't think cool, and Spike is cool. So I don't know, but I'm hoping for the best. But anyways, they're presuming production, and I imagine we'll be seeing Cowboy Bebop here before, hopefully before February or March.
Don't sell John Cho don't sell him short, man. Don't sell him short. Great actor, done a lot of good things out there. Obviously, from the Star Trek universe, I know him a lot as well. So I think he'll do just fine. I think if you underestimate John Cho as an actor, I think you're selling him short. So it's just me, my opinion.
I know. I hope so. I really hope so. But it's just, I think about Harold and Kumar, and I think that's kind of the same way I look at like Steven Stifler. Sean William Scott. I can't see him playing anything else besides Stifler. So I think that's the issue. So I'm hoping that I'm pleasantly surprised by this. But who knows? I still think that, you ever see the live action Rurouni Kenshin adaptations that have come out?
Yes.
I still think that those are like the best live action anime interpretations I've ever seen. So will it top it? Who knows? But we'll see.
Who knows? But Netflix is always something going on, and it's just interesting. Like I said, I'm listening to Land of the Giants from Vox Media right now, as far as one of the podcasts I'm listening to, outside of ours, of course. And it was interesting because you and I, my friend, could have had Netflix stock for just $1. Imagine that.
I know. I've just started like investing in stocks now. You know, I'm invested. I have if you go on the Cash App or you use Robinhood, you know, we're not being sponsored by them, but you can invest like $1 or $2 into things and just see what happens. But a lot of the vaccine companies, because they're getting the government bailouts right now, their stocks are slowly climbing or quickly climbing, depending on which one you look into. But yeah, man. Wish we would have got on that Netflix train, because I have the feeling that once their new shows start coming back on, they're gonna be on the rise for sure.
Absolutely, my friend. Netflix and chill. Netflix and chill. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of great stuff that we're talking about besides Netflix or including Netflix, because we will be talking about Umbrella Academy and The Boys coming up here. Each of them just recently in fact, on the same day, had some teasers come out for season 2. We'll talk about which one a lot of people, most people are interested in more. And of these shows, we're also going to talk about that and Doom Patrol, since all these three, I'm going to say quasi superhero shows, let's say, they're kind of off the beaten path for superhero shows. We're going to talk about all these shows that, like we did last year. They all got off to great starts, but which ones going forward could have at least a better showing going forward on their streaming outlets? Plus, we're going to be talking about some canceled Valve projects, which came under the out to fruition with the development of Half-Life Alyx, which came out recently on VR. So we'll talk about that, including some very disappointing ones for gaming fans out there. Quibi is making a big push for one of its latest projects, its movie called Die Hard with Kevin Hart, about him as a comedic sidekick that wants to become a famous action star hero, and the process that he has to go through, and all the stuff, crazy stuff that John Travolta puts him through in the movie. We're going to talk about
Die Hart, like Hart.
Yes, like Kevin Hart.
That's clever. That's really clever.
Yes. So we'll talk about that coming up here in a little bit. We're also going to talk about the coronavirus having a speed up effect on a lot of well-known businesses, including one that's near and dear to our hearts. We'll just say it right now, Sears. So we're going to talk about that coming up here in a bit, and the memories that we have of it. And then later on on the back end of the program, we're going to be talking about Ready Player 2 and our excitement for that book, as it was announced that it's coming, and you can pre-order it now while you're also ordering Josh's book right there on Amazon and Barnes & Noble coming up in November. So we'll talk about that coming up on the back end of the show as well. But first, my friend, that's totally the worst Tron just music ever, but at least my rendition of it anyways. But Tron 3, according to what I was reading on Newsweek, it had an article that Tron 3, recently on a podcast, it leaked out that Tron 3 could be back revived once again as an entity. And as you and I would expect, we thought it was going to be a movie, and we weren't sure before, because we heard that it was in limbo because Tron Legacy didn't quite make the money that it needed to make in order to justify another movie in the chain. Made about $400 million worldwide. But Tron 3 could become a reality, or as I would like to see it, maybe a Tron series, because the animated series was so good, could be coming to Disney Plus. So that's an option out there for you, and that's a big rumor that's out there, and actually something that maybe have a little bit more heat and fire stoking out there. So I want to hear your thoughts, man. Could Tron 3 very much be a reality? Because you know what? I think it could be, and it could be coming to Disney Plus Not right away, mind you, but at some point down the line.
So I read the article. I read I forget who they were talking with, but I read the interview. I read him.
Was it Daft
them
Punk?
talking. No, it was a producer. I thought, wasn't it?
Okay.
I know Daft Punk has signed on to do the soundtrack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did a great job in Tron Legacy.
Yeah, no, they did a great job. Honestly, like I really liked Tron Legacy, and I don't know like where it went wrong with audiences. Maybe it's the same thing, with Blade Runner 2049, but I really enjoyed the film, and I would love to see more. But I mean, my fear with this would be they said, we're getting a script nailed down, and the script is really good. But we are, originally we had something that was not good for theaters, and it makes me wonder that like if it's not good for theaters and you're going to put something out now on Disney Plus, Tron is something that needs a big budget. Like you saw just because of the world that Tron takes place in, you've seen, we've seen what that looks like, and it needs a big budget. And if you're doing doing Tron on a smaller scale, I would hope that they would at least pick up the story of, where Garrett Hedlund and Olivia Wilde's characters left off, because it was, what's his name was trying to open the grid, right, and get everyone out into the real world. Like what?
Oh, Clue. Well, Flynn. Clue. Yeah, Flynn.
Clue. Yeah, because Flynn dies.
Yeah, and then Clue was trying to get into, Clue was the bad guy, and also yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I would hope that they'd carry on their story instead of just giving us, what Disney is famous for with their non-theater sequels, is that it takes place in the same universe, use the story on, but it's just a really, really low quality. So I'm hopeful that, should this go to Disney Plus, it'll be something of note. It won't be like a Lady and the Tramp or something like that. It won't be like in Atlantis 2. It'll truly be a great film. And that's what scares me, is that like I'm very fond of the Tron movies. And if this doesn't hit the mark for me, it's going to ruin the other two films.
I don't know if it's going to ruin the other two films. I mean, it depends on your definition of it ruining. I mean, if you already have two films that you enjoyed already in the series, and the third one doesn't quite meet up to your standards, I don't know if that's going to be the case, that it will ruin the other two. I still will enjoy the first two. I know my daughters, we actually sat down about a month or two ago and actually watched the first two. One kind of liked it, the other one didn't. So I don't know how it will relate to a new generation. That kind of concerns me. I think it's always something that would be very cool and very inviting, very futuristic, very sci-fi. So I'm hoping that Tron 3 will still be able to connect. I know Tron roller coaster was being built at Disney World when I was there in December. So I know that there is still future for the Tron IP. I hope that it would actually migrate into a series on Disney Plus, because I would love to see something continuous in the Tron world, because you have so many ways now that you can attack, pardon the pun, this type of scenario when you're talking about computers. Because anything now within the world of computers, whether it's hacking, whether it's a virus, whether it's any which way now that you could go ahead and have any type of computerized scenario, it now could really lay into the story like ever before. I mean, even more than 2010 with Tron Legacy, and well more than when the original. I mean, there's so many more issues now within the world of computers that are both good and bad, that you could go ahead and inflect into a storyline. That's why I just don't think a Tron 3 movie would be enough. I would love to see a Tron series instead.
Again, I mean, it depends on how it does it. Like I am, to me, I think if it weren't high quality, it would ruin it for me, just because I'm a continuity freak. And if they continued the story and did it in a series and it was good and it was like maybe the quality of The Mandalorian, then yeah, I could get behind something like that. I would love to see an extended, go for an extended stay in that universe. But again, I just want it to be good. I want it to be continuing what's already been done.
Well, we'll see what happens as either a Tron 3 or Tron, hopefully for myself, a Tron series could be in the works. most likely will be heading to Disney Plus. I have a feeling if it's a movie that they might all by that time. Well, let's say even if they start working on it now or are working on it now, it wouldn't come out till 2022 at the earliest. So it might actually have a theatrical run if that's the case. But if it does migrate itself into a series and Disney Plus wants more content specifically for a Disney Plus series or both, who knows? There could be the best of both worlds. It all depends on Disney's faith in the Tron IP, which, as you and I have seen, they haven't really had much of, because how long did it take for the sequel to Tron? You know what I'm saying? So before we go ahead and jump for joy on this, we'll see how much Disney wants to back up the Tron IP, as hopefully a Tron 3 or a Tron series could be on the way from Disney. What are your thoughts?
What still worries me about that, though, is the fact that he said, we had a Tron 3 but it wasn't viable for theaters, and that worries me. That concerns me a little bit.
And that was like what, halfway in the through the decade before Disney Plus was a reality at that point in time.
Right. So it just makes me wonder, like, that's why I fear this is going to be something of lesser quality.
I hope not, my friend, because you and I both know that a lesser quality Tron would not make a good Tron indeed. What are your thoughts out there on Tron possibly being revived as a movie or, as I'm hoping, a television series? Or, either way works for me. But share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And don't forget, Pop Culture Cosmos is now on TikTok as well. But my friend, there's more to talk about on this week's show. Umbrella Academy and The Boys, both on the same day, released season 2 teasers, trailers, whatever you want to say now, because to me it's all the same thing. But they both released trailers out there into the wild this week on the same day. And it was kind of interesting that Umbrella Academy for season 2 got some nice, interest and things of that nature. But when The Boys came out with theirs later in the day, a lot more people got excited, even though we had already seen a little snippet of season 2 already. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend, when it comes to Umbrella Academy, when it comes to The Boys. I'm excited for both. I gave both favorable reviews. In fact, The Boys, I believe, if I remember correctly, when I was on my show last year with Jessica Boggs, I believe I gave The Boys the #1 spot as the best show on television last year. So I want to hear your thoughts on The Boys and the Umbrella Academy. Are you excited for both, one, or neither of the above? I think I know the answer, though.
That's what I'm TikToking about. See what I did? Thank you. I will be here all week.
Please try the
but yeah, no, I'm excited for both. Yeah, I loved both series. Like, I like the Umbrella Academy a lot. I like The Boys a lot, and they both have their kind of different types of superhero shows, but I mean, they both have certain qualities that are different from the other. But I'm just as excited about both. Like, I love the Umbrella Academy. I'm really curious about, because obviously they're going back in time this time, and they brought, what was that quote in the trailer? You brought the end of the world with you.
And I like the answer that was given. Oh man, I told my cult it ended in 2019.
Yeah. How long do we have?
Till Monday. Oh no.
Till Monday. Yeah. Well, and I like how they brought back what's the weird agent guy who is feeling conflicted about everything.
Yeah. But also they have the 2 agents as well, the bad guys seemingly that are after them, that are dressed as milkmen and vacuum salesmen. So
yeah, well, they have the one guy too that has the fishbowl.
Yes,
on his head,
absolutely.
Fish.
Saw that.
So there's a lot of mystery and intrigue there. I'm curious. I guess like the last season kind of had some detrimental consequences on time and that whole organization that ran everything. So it'll be fun to pick up where these characters left off. And I like that the brother that Klaus sees, what's his name? Ben. I like that he is now, it's kind of known that he's with them now. So I thought that dynamic was interesting.
Well, I remember that they asked, is Ben with you? And then he said
Yeah.
he doesn't time travel. And Ben's in the background going, I'm here,
Are
man.
you kidding me?
Yes.
So yes.
I'm actually looking very forward to it. I'm actually looking more forward to it than I was season 1.
Yeah, season 1 was like it had its episodes that were really good, but there were a couple episodes that were kind of a drag. You know, I don't like if this might make me sound like snobby, but like I don't like going back in time in a series. Like if it's a brief flashback of things that happened, that's fine. But they had several episodes with at least 20 minutes of flashbacks in them, and I think that kind of made it a little difficult to watch. But now that that's all over with, like I do really love the characters in the world, so I'm hoping, you know, just to kind of move forward.
I'm hoping that as well. I see the Umbrella Academy. Now, get this. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but we've got The Boys, which we'll talk about here in a sec. And then we've got Doom Patrol, which just finished its season 2. Very good show, a very good series, very good season. They've done a great job with it. I see Umbrella Academy as a hybrid of the two. I see them as like trying to be as sometimes like The Boys, and I see them trying to be sometimes as goofy as Doom Patrol. So I don't know sometimes that they always find the right mix, but when it does, it works, and it really works well. So I'm hoping for some good things when it comes to Umbrella Academy. I didn't think the series was bad. I thought it was actually pretty good. I just didn't think it was at the level of Doom Patrol and The Boys consistently, because I thought those two series for me were among the very best last year. And then when it comes to The Boys, I think we're all excited, my friend, all excited about what's coming up with The Boys. I mean, because it just looks like there's going to be a Stormfront being added into the mix, and now The Boys really plastered out there as far as being the world's most wanted. It looks like it's going to get even more intriguing in season 2.
Yeah, you know, and I love just like how aware of itself that show has become. You know, even just looking in the trailers, like these people like really just they were on the path in the first season to becoming these heroes, these violent heroes, or like these tyrants, and now you just see in the trailer they've just full on fallen into those roles. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how Homelander, you know, what's going to happen with him. How is he going to? Because if I remember correctly, Homelander let Carl Urban's character live. So I'm just curious, like how, you know, obviously they're going to probably reference that in the new season. So how's that going to play out? And
Homelander, remember, had a child with Carl Urban's wife, and the child doesn't get the juice. The kid actually has superpowers, and I think was the first kid to actually be born a superhero. So that makes it even crazier. And yeah, all the stuff that's going on and intermixed there, it's really very interesting to see. But yeah, The Boys is it's crazy out there as well, but in a different way, and so over the top as far as the violence and the gore and all that. But it does so in a way that it's trying to tell a story and trying to make a statement on certain things that you have to pick up. But yeah, it's very good, and I'm excited for that series and that season as well.
I just want to know what happened to the Deep. You know, he was having a really bad day at the end of that
Yes.
series. So
yeah, the Deep was having some struggles and going into his inner demons, and they sent him. Was it to the Pacific Northwest, I think?
Yeah, and then he tried to. That was because he stole a dolphin or something, right?
Yes.
And the dolphin ended up. Yeah, that was
funny, hilarious. Yeah,
tragic scene for him.
Yes, and it went through the windshield and all that. Yeah, and then I know he shaved his head and all that. Yeah, it's just there's so many intriguing things we got to see coming up in The Boys and also Umbrella Academy, and we're looking forward to both of them. So I want to ask you out there, what are you more excited about, The Boys or the Umbrella Academy? The Boys is coming out in September to Amazon, and when it comes out, we'll go ahead and share our thoughts on that. But Umbrella Academy is coming at the end of this month here in July. So I want to share, I want to hear your thoughts out there. Which are you looking more forward to? And also as well, do you compare both of them to the Doom do you compare both of them to Doom Patrol? And which of these three, I guess pseudo or semi superhero stories, where they're superhero stories, but they're kind of they're kind of difficult to explain because they're not the traditional superhero stories in and of themselves. But which of these non-traditional superhero series are you most looking forward to watching? And if you've watched Doom Patrol already, what were your thoughts on that? Because we'd love to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Remember, we're on every social media outlet, including Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and you know what? We're on TikTok as well. My friend, also as well, I want to talk to you about, before we hit the half-hour mark, the canceled projects from Valve. There was an article all over the place. Excuse me. There was a recent special, multimedia special, according to IGN, from your friend and mine, Jeff Keighley, talking about the final hours of Half-Life Alyx, the very well-received VR game that's out there, Half-Life Alyx. So I want to give them props on making a great game. Half-Life Alyx has garnered some great reviews. A lot of people are very interested in it. It could be a game that it just extends the life of the VR platform, which you and I have both gone over as far as being somewhat disappointing, because not too long ago we were talking about it like it was going to be the second coming, and it unfortunately did not, so as of yet, come to pass. That and the Iron Man VR, that's also something a lot of people look forward to, and the Darth Vader one as well. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend. During that special by Jeff Keighley, they mentioned several canceled projects by Valve, including Half-Life 3 and Left 4 Dead 3. And Half-Life 3, I know, is a sore subject with a lot of gamers out there that really cannot fathom the fact that there's no Half-Life 3 out there. And I also want to ask as well, Left 4 Dead 3, which has a special place in my heart as one of the most fun games I've ever played. I'm truly disappointed that they have not extended that series yet. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend. Half-Life 3 and Left 4 Dead 3 were on the table, were in development, and then canceled. I don't know if they're going to be revived or not by Valve. I want to hear your thoughts on that. And is it something that they should go back to? And are you truly disappointed that they got canceled in the first place?
When I think about Half-Life 3, like I honestly, I think never say never, because that is something the fans wanted. It is something that I know Valve could pull off if they wanted to. There's nothing keeping them from doing it. And it's just, even with all the controversy going on at Valve with their people, like it is something doable. They own the property. It's not like, trying to get an Alan Wake 2 where Remedy is no longer part of Microsoft and Microsoft owns the rights to the IP. It's not a scenario like that. They could easily go back and do it, and it's something fans want. So I never say never. Look, they said we never revisit that world, and we got the the Half-Life Alyx VR. So I don't think that we're never going to see it, but I think that it still will be a long time, and by the time they do finally revisit it, is anyone really going to care anymore?
And that's the problem, because I have such fond memories of it. But then again, as these games get older, less and less people will be interested in it. The kids will be looking at other games and like, I don't care about Left 4 Dead. That was my dad's game. That was my granddad's game. That was my mom's game. That was my grandma's game. That was something that took place 10, 15 years ago. And that's the problem. If it gets to that point where people don't care, that would be detrimental, and that would be so disappointing for those two series. I think with Half-Life 3, it has the better, I guess, notoriety of the two. But Left 4 Dead 3 is something that I know a lot of fans want out there as well. I think a lot of people just truly had fun at that game. But the continuation of Half-Life 3, to see it, a culmination of that series, I think because it set itself up for a trilogy. I think a lot of people just wanted that final chapter, at least that closure for the Half-Life series, instead of this part 2 or part that, or now Half-Life Alyx on VR, which is good. but it just shows the potential of what Half-Life 3 and Left 4 Dead 3 could become. So I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed that they have not finished development on those two games, and that right now, as of now, they're on the shelf. I'm hoping they'll go back to it. And that's why I ask you, my friend, as we close out this half hour, do you think that they'll ever go back to those two games?
I think they will. I think they will. Especially like if there's been whispers for a while about Portal 3, and like I'm sure that if they're continuing mythology in that world, they will go back to it eventually. And it's something that say this probably will never happen, but like say Steam, hits a low spot and they're like, how do we get people stoked about Valve again? Let's do Half-Life 3. We'll see it. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
So if you want to check it out, the article's on IGN, or if you want to check out the entire multimedia presentation of the final hours of Half-Life Alyx, starring your friend and mine, Josh. Actually, he's not, but yeah, he's been somebody that talked about on the show before. Jeff Keighley. You got to go ahead and check it out today. It's right there for you on IGN. You want to give them the shout out because they reported the story. But yeah, we're kind of disappointed right now that it was canceled, being Half-Life 3 and Left 4 Dead 3. And our hopes are that Valve will change its mind and go ahead and bring out those two entities, like you said, and a Portal 3 to gamers someday soon. What are your thoughts out there on Half-Life 3 and Left 4 Dead 3 being canceled in the wake of Half-Life Alyx getting released to VR and the Valve's focus on VR? What are your thoughts out there? Please let us know. Share us your thoughts, that whole 9 yards. PopCultureCosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also TikTok as well. My friend, second half hour is coming up right now. Once again, it's Gerald Glassford from the Pop Culture Cosmos, along with my fellow host and good friend, Josh Peterson, a.k.a. Josh the Magnificent. Josh, Quibi is something that we've talked about off and on. We talked at first about could this concept of 8 to 10 minute or 7 or 8 minute quick bites, thus the name Quibi, would work as far as on a mobile platform. Would people stay interested? Would people want to go ahead and check this out in our busy lives and yada, 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 yada? Well, it turns out that Quibi has had some struggling months so far. No matter what Hollywood weight has been put on it, put behind it, no matter what stars, no matter what interesting concepts have been part of it, Quibi has really not gotten over that well with the public. And compounding that, Peacock came out. And compounding that even further, HBO Max came out. And compounding even that even further, all the other existing streaming outlets like Disney Plus and Netflix, Hulu, etc., Amazon Prime, they've all come out with projects, shows, series during that time that have garnered people's interest more than what Quibi's been doing. So Quibi, as of right now, has made a big promotional push in the past week for Kevin Hart's new movie, or latest movie, called Die Hard, where he is a comedic sidekick. Well, that's basically like real life, that wants to go ahead and be an action hero, the leading man type deal. So he goes to a school headed up by John Travolta and somehow gets into a real life scenario, or at least a movie life scenario from that in order to become a hero. So I want to hear your thoughts. I haven't seen any reviews for it yet or anything like that. I mean, the trailer's kind of cool, but it's Kevin Hart doing his thing, as you would expect, as far as the training goes and all that, and not going as well as he would like, which is supposed to, be funny and things of that nature. It's about as Kevin Hartish as Kevin Hart can be. So I want to hear your thoughts on this project, because Kevin Hart is a really great comedian. He's super funny. Love his stand-up. Done a great job over many years. Loved him, ever since, as far as loved his work ever since I first saw him in The 40-Year-Old Virgin. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend, on Die Hard, if this could be something that could save Queeby, because his career is going to go on and go on very well. He's going to be starring in more films. He's got a lot more films to do. His career is going to be just fine. Is this going to be the kind of kickstart that Queeby needs to go ahead and become viable right now?
No. No, not at all. Honestly, like it's Queeby is they're done. You know, they're sinking. You know, with the whole Kevin Hart thing. Kevin Hart's funny. He's a great dude. He's his yet like you said, his career will go on, but I don't think that something starring Kevin Hart is going to be what rights that ship. Now, if is The Rock, you know, somebody big, maybe, but I mean, I don't think that Kevin Hart has the star power to save an entire failed streaming platform. And I hope that doesn't sound mean because I really like him, but I don't think he has that power.
It's funny because in the trailer he is mentioned Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and that's part of the fictional stature that this movie has, because it talks about a movie that the fictional character of Kevin Hart does a movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and he's talking to two talk show hosts about this, and they laugh at him because he wants to become an action hero because he makes that suggestion, so, and thus the point of what they do in the movie. Queeby is just something on a platform that, it seemed like a great idea at the time. When they announced it at CES, as far as the press conference that was there, and their hopes were high about targeting it to you, my friend, because that was the idea, targeting it to today's millennials, because we want to target everything to today's millennials, want to target everything to a younger audience, because that's who's going to really buy the product. And that's who they were looking for in their busy lives, to go ahead as millennials, still be able to check out footage, because you don't have enough time for Netflix or Disney Plus or anything of that nature. You don't have enough time for that, but you do have 8 to 9 minutes for Queeby each and every day. Unfortunately, they didn't account for the fact that people do, in a coronavirus pandemic, have time. But I think even if the coronavirus hadn't happened, they still would not be exactly thriving at this point in time, because I think they underestimate the desire people have to watch complete programs, complete movies, and take the time to go ahead and do that, whether it's on Netflix, watching the latest shows there, or Disney Plus. You see all the tremendous amount of enthusiasm and energy people have watching Hamilton and going out of the way to see Hamilton. And you see the numbers skyrocketing on the apps. You hear those stories about, I think, Disney rising up 75% on their downloads of their app and all that. So you hear all those numbers, and HBO Max talking about what they're doing, all the great stuff that they've got out recently. So you hear all that. I think they just underestimated, Queeby did, on the power of consistent programming that's out, and the people's willingness to go ahead and take the time to watch it.
Yeah, think about this. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but like my phone, right? I can sit here, Queeby, that the point of Queeby is so that I will watch something on my phone when I have a few minutes, right?
Yeah.
But, I have this phone and I've got games on it. I've got Final Fantasy, I've got Dragon Quest, I've got little Bubble Popper, Bust a Move, whatever. So why am I going to spend the time, like my downtime, watching Queeby when I could just play a game that would be a lot more entertaining for me? Like, that's what I don't understand about this whole mobile platform. It's not a good marketing solution. Now, if they were to say, hey, we have these shows and we're going to make them full length, and it's not just something you can enjoy on your phone, but also in your living room, then maybe that would be something more viable, something that I would be into. But I mean, I'm not the kind of person that watches things on my phone unless I am, sitting in a car for longer than 2 hours. And I don't know if I'm the only person who is like that, but it's just, if I'm sitting at work or at lunch, I'm not going to turn a show on for a few minutes. I'm probably going to play a game or check my emails or go on social media.
Well, I'll tell you what, my friend, I think I agree with you on that. I think there's still, I think they underestimated the marketplace. I think they underestimated exactly how people perceive Queeby and what they wanted Queeby to do. They had a lot of big name talent. That's not in question. They had a lot of big name people behind it that wanted to work on it. There's a lot of people up in the exec's office for Quibi that are big names in the Hollywood industry. But the thing is, they still just didn't understand the average movie viewer, the average television viewer, and what they want to do and what kind of content they want. I think if Quibi continues to struggle at its current rate, I think you will see a major shift with that company before they are either killed off, died off, or bought off. And that is that they will go to a standard format where you will be able, Josh, to go ahead and download the Quibi app and watch a full movie from them or a full series from them. And you'll have the choice of doing it in either the quick bites or going ahead for the full series. I think that's their ultimate, change that they will have to make before we can truly decide whether or not they're going to die or not. But if that's the case, that's not going to be a good sign for them. That's probably going to be a sign that, hey, their days are definitely numbered if they go ahead and resort to that. But I think they're going to have to resort to that at this pace because Kevin Hart aside and his talents and the enthusiasm some may have for Die Hard, I still think that's not going to be enough long term because Quibi it's fighting an uphill battle, and I'm not sure if it's going to be able to go ahead and get all the way uphill unless they make some major changes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they could save themselves if they were to do, full length things. But it's not. I don't think they overestimated their market, and I think that's kind of to their detriment.
Somewhere in some office at Quibi, someone's going, "Dang millennials!" Pretty sure. What are your thoughts out there on Quibi and the latest offering that they have with Kevin Hart called Die Hard? Are you interested in picking up Quibi just to check it out? Or do you have Quibi? Or are you not interested at all in the Quibi platform? Share your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos everywhere on social media or also TikTok as well. My friend, talking about now something of a little bit of a personal nature. I mean, you saw it on my Facebook that recently was announced in an area that I lived many, many years in the Southern California area that Sears is closing at the Del Amo Mall. And this was something that was very near and dear to me. I told you it's where I learned a lot of my early pop culture as far as seeing toys and seeing fascinating video games, either both console and also the traditional arcade games were there. Imagine that at Sears. They had you could go downstairs and they had all the toy section and they had all the games and the video games, and then they had a snack bar there that you could go ahead and play arcade games at. It was just truly a fun time while my mom went upstairs and bought me Buster Browns on the rack, which we won't talk about there from there. But, that was some styling and profiling back in the day for grade school. Again, we won't talk about that. But I will say this, that it just is a bigger sign of the times. And you and I have touched on this from time to time with Toys R Us and other companies and retailers that have gone by the wayside that we were very familiar with and we have an affinity for. I want to hear your thoughts on how the coronavirus pandemic is speeding up the inevitable. I mean, Sears was hanging on by a thread. Anyways, JCPenney, several others, they're hanging on by a thread. And I think COVID is going to knock off a lot of these retailers sooner rather than later.
Well, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense that it would happen because, if Amazon weren't in play, I think that they'd be a lot better off, right? Their people be going to them online instead of Amazon, where you can just buy everything. And we're at this time right now where like malls are closed. Well, not the one out here, but a lot of malls are closed. They're shut down. You can't go into them, or they limit capacity. For these stores that are already on their way out, like that's bad for them. That's bad. They're not having the opportunity to sell as much as they did. And at the mall out here, it's like there's a lot of stores who are closing. Like they're having a lot of closing sales going on right now. And yeah, I imagine that COVID was the nail in the coffin for them. And it's sad to see it go. We're with the death of department stores. I think it's possible that we're going to start seeing the death of shopping malls because a lot of people go to shopping malls, to go into these department stores, and then they go into the mall to kind of, walk around a little bit. But how long till it starts hitting? JC Penney's is closing down. A lot of their locations closed. Sears is closing down. Dillard's are, I think I don't know how they're doing right now, but I mean, a lot of the big department stores where people would buy clothes, like, people just aren't going in there anymore. And I think that's killing them. It's not just because of COVID, but also because people are, there are other places that are, people like to shop these days. But, on the topic of Sears, I got my Sega Genesis from Sears. So I remember always going in there when I was a kid, and they had, downstairs, they'd have the big game counter. You can go and look at all the games up behind the person working there. There's the Sega Saturn stuff, Sega CD, they had Nintendo, they had everything there. And I just remember when my parents would go into Sears, like my dad had to buy pants or my mom had to buy like a new dress or something, I would just sit there and stare for as long as they let me at these games, like wondering, like, how can I take some of these home? And that was back when we were talking about in the last episode how games were not at a consistent price back then, right? You had some that were like 20, some were 40, and then you had some that jumped up to like $80. So it's I got a lot of good memories, man. But I mean, as for department stores, I think that they were inevitably shutting down. Sears, JCPenney's, all that, and COVID, kind of slowed that whole thing down. But now I ask you, what do you think is going to happen to shopping malls?
As someone who loved shopping malls back in the day and who actually frequented, at one time was the largest, and then became, one of the largest, and then became a large mall because the fact everybody started growing theirs bigger and faster and whatnot. But I was in the Torrance area where it had the largest mall at one point in time, the Del Amo Mall, the Del Amo Fashion Mall. I am so sad to see this part of not just Americana, but retail shopping as a whole fade into obscurity. I mean, I have such fond memories of walking through the spaces, seeing all the stores, going to the arcades. Oh my gosh, I love the arcade there. I spent many hours there at the mall, just truly enjoy the mall experience. But you're right, man. This coronavirus pandemic is speeding up the inevitable, because you and I both saw in the past few years people frequenting less and less shopping malls. That they were frequenting shopping malls less and less and less. The only time we would really see a large throng of people at the shopping malls was when? During the holidays. And so you're basing your entire budget or your entire profit margin, your entire business around 1 month of the year. And you can't do that always. A lot of these retailers love to say that they do, but you really can't go ahead and do that and just try and bank on 1 month out of the year every single year. It doesn't work long term. But you know what? Hey, unless you're a Christmas store. Now, if you're a Christmas store, that's a different story. But for the most part, these retailers that are open 12 months a year can't do that. And it's showing up now because people are going less and less and less. They're going online more and more and more. I'm an avid Walmart.com. I'm an avid Amazon.com. I'm an avid Target.com shopper. I do a lot of my shopping now online. I'm not ashamed to say that. And the coronavirus, that has even made my decision to shop online even more pronounced. And going forward, people are going to be hesitant about going into large spaces with a lot of people. So I agree with you. The shopping mall experience is going to die sooner, most likely, rather than later.
And that breaks my heart. I love shopping malls. Even if I don't go in to buy anything, I just I like walking around them. I like the food courts. I like to stop and get a pretzel and eat at Sbarro or whatever it might be. And it's so sad to see them go. And like I remember back in California, the shopping mall by my house, the closest one was Westminster, and like I was in there back when I was in California last week, and there's not a lot of big name stores in there. Yeah, you got your Bath and Body Works and stuff like that, and there's like Gap and Victoria's Secret and all that, your usual tropes, your Hot Topics. But there's a lot of the stuff that was there before, like when I was a kid, the big stores, the the gaming stores and toy stores and bookstores and stuff like that, they've all been shut down, and in their place is just, it's kind of like swap meaty type things. There's a lot of boutiques, and there's a lot of anime stores, and not that that stuff's bad, but I mean, it's not enough to drive people into it anymore, and that's kind of the sad part. Yeah, during Christmas you get the the little mobile stations, and people pop little things popping up there, and people selling things, but it's sad, man. It's sad. I'm gonna miss that experience, and I hope that it stays for a little while. But yeah, you're right, with like the advent of online shopping, and even like you made a good point about Target.com, Walmart.com. I think that the only reason that those stores are still competing right now is that they have grocery store. Like, those are two stores you can go to buy anything, right? They have your food, your clothing, your electronics. Like, if they didn't have all that stuff crammed into one store, I don't think that they would be as competitive with something like Amazon right now.
And that's something that I want to give props again to the podcast I was listening to, Land of the Giants, from Vox Media. And they indicated that that's how they wanted to go ahead and get more into that space, because that was their disadvantage at Amazon, because you could go to Walmart that was plentiful and right there, or Target, and go and get something, or go and get groceries right away. And they wanted to go ahead and get more involved in that. So that's why they bought Whole Foods. That's why they're trying to go ahead and cut down the delivery time to, in some cases, in some products, down to a 2-hour window, things of that nature. Same thing with Walmart. They're now heavily invested the opposite way, going into the cyberspace even more. And they're trying to become a big threat to Amazon.com, because of the fact they now see fully where they need to go and expand, because they pretty much saturated out the retail box system. I mean, they can't really go much farther and expand much farther here in the United States as far as the Walmart stores. So they have to go ahead and expand their base. And how they do that? To compete head on with Amazon, but they have to go ahead and compete on Amazon's terms, as far as speed, as far as price, as far as value. And these are the interesting things that we're going to be seeing, how these two heavyweights, and how Target can interject itself in the mix, because Target has been a darling in the past year and a half of investors, because the way that they have made their stores, the look, the design, the accessibility. They are the other choice, but they are the interesting other choice for a lot of people, because they want to go ahead and they see something at Target or Target.com that they don't see in Walmart.com or Amazon.com. So it's interesting to see how this will all play out. I mean, at some point in time, it's going to be other stuff like Best Buy, other stuff like Macy's, other stores, retail outlets, retail entities that rely heavily on brick and mortar sales. These are the next to fall after the JCPenney's, the Sears, the traditional standby brick and mortar retailers. Once they finally are done, you're going to see those next, I have a feeling.
Yeah, I mean, and another like saving grace for something like Target is that moms like to shop there. Like, it is therapeutic for, I mean, not just moms, but like everybody. It's like you see a Target on your way home, and you're like, oh, I'm going to stop in there. That's that joke. You can't go into Target and spend less than $100. I think that kind of works in their advantage, just because you want to get out of the house. A lot of people, you'd be surprised at like how many, or maybe you wouldn't, but like how many people shop to blow off steam. And it's, I think that that's something that the Targets and the Walmarts have working in their favor. They also employ a whole lot of people. So, in these times of COVID, I have probably seen more people in Walmarts than I have in actual grocery stores. So, convenience, man, convenience. I think that Walmart might be just as convenient in some cases as ordering something online.
I'm so mad at you right now. I'm going to go ahead and shop at Walmart right now.
Just be prepared to spend more than $100, man.
And that sound you hear is my wife hitting me on the back of the head. Pah! No, as I do it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But I will tell you this, there's still a lot more hope out there for people out there as far as looking forward to more great things within the world of retail when it comes to Target, Walmart, Amazon. I mean, if you're really into that, you're going to get more of that. And I think it's going to become very much a three-party system of those three entities, and everybody else is going to be on the outside looking in, or at least for the most part. Maybe eBay will get in there, maybe a couple others, Alibaba. But for the most part, I think there's going to be a lot of players like Best Buy, again, like Macy's, GameStop. It's all these brick and mortar reliant retailers that are going to be on the outside looking in. And as the older entities out there like Sears and JCPenney, they go by the wayside, they're going to be right behind them, or they're going to be in the not too distant future behind them as far as being a bankrupt or out of business entirely because of what's going on right now in the current cyberspace war between Target, Walmart, and Amazon. What are your thoughts out there on the coronavirus speeding up the death of many retailers out there, starting with Sears, JCPenney, and so much more? And also, do you shop online? What are your thoughts on that? Do you find it so convenient? Is it become your way, your mode of shopping? Or do you still go ahead and go to brick and mortar retailers and go ahead and support them at a local level? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode, but before we head on out, something that you and I have talked about over the course of the past couple of years, off and on, came out to be a big hit movie, but a book not named Congratulations, You Suck, unfortunately, but a book called Ready Player One, which was a huge hit at the earlier part of last decade. It came out to, like I said, Steven Spielberg's hit movie. It's going to come out with a sequel book, Ready Player 2. It's now available for pre-order, and it's coming out in November. And while you're there at Amazon.com and also as well BarnesandNoble.com, please go ahead and also order Josh's book as well. Hint, hint. But I ask you, my friend, are you excited for Ready Player 2? Because I know you're the one that got me hooked on Ready Player 1 in the first place, and I truly thank you for it, because if there's anything out there as far as that accentuates pop culture, it's got to be Ready Player One, because it is truly the quintessential book on pop culture.
And it's something that I don't know, I feel like it speaks to a variety of generations. Like it doesn't just doesn't just hit people that grew up in the 80s. It hits you in the 90s, the 2000s, even like more modern times. It is a really cool story, a really cool idea. As for what the sequel will entail, that's tough, right? Because we have, I think they did a good job with the whole idea of, corporations trying to invade, what they call it, the not the wasteland. What do they call it? What was the world called? The Oasis.
Yeah, the Oasis. Yeah, because when they went in, they plugged into the Oasis, and there you go.
They had corporations like trying to run the Oasis, right? And
it seemed to have a happy ending. It seemed to close itself off into a happy ending.
It surprised me when I read that there was a sequel, but I also started thinking about it, like, what is going on in our world that somebody could write about right now having to do with the internet? And it probably is maybe the government or maybe more corporate involvement. Like, there could be a lot of stories to write about there, but I also I don't know, the last movie, or not movie, but book, was pretty big in itself. It was a pretty epic story, and it doesn't feel like, the internet's in danger again. Like, it just makes me wonder, where we can go from there. And not that I doubt Ernest Cline's ability to do it. Like, he's a very, very gifted writer, but I'm wondering where the story's going, because I don't see any possibilities right now.
That's amazing that it is going to be coming a Ready Player 2. It would seem like inevitability as far as from a monetarial standpoint, because you don't have that kind of success. You don't, obviously with the book and now the movie that came out after it, you don't have that kind of success without you getting kind of pressured into making a sequel. Whether Ernest Cline, he has consistently said that he's had ideas on a sequel. He's been quoted as saying that. He said that it's always been there on the table. But I don't know. I mean, this have been a situation where Ready Player One, which closed itself nicely and contained itself nicely within a one story arc, you're trying to go ahead and now pose a new thread to the Oasis when you seemingly tied it all up. I'm wondering if it's going to go ahead and be something that fans are going to gravitate towards. At least initially they will be, because I'll be very excited for it. But I'm still struggling with the fact that where can this, like you, where can this story go from here? That's what I want to know. What could be the new threat to the Oasis? Or what could be the new challenge to it, my friend? Because, obviously it was all about the challenge and finding, the keys and all that. So tell me, man, what is there left to do in the world of Ready Player One and now Ready Player Two?
It'd be funny if it was marketed more like an add-on, like a DLC. That could be something cool. I don't know, man. I don't know like where the story could go. I'm hopeful it's good and it's meaningful, because it feels like in the first one, like you said, there's a bow was put on everything, but all the characters are all like really well developed by the end of it. So I don't really know like what else you can do with them. I'll bet there's probably already film rights being talked about. Steven Spielberg might be being approached already, but I've to me what's really on my mind the most is what else can be referenced at this point. Because look, they had what, Iron Giant, Mobile Suit Gundam, Back to the Future. There's some Warcraft talk in there, Dungeons and Dragons. Like they reference
Star
pretty much
Wars,
everything.
yeah.
Star Wars, Star Trek. Like they reference so much in that. So what is left? What is left that hasn't been talked about? And I think that's what I'm most excited about with this book, is like what else is there? Show me the Oasis of 90s references. That's what I'm excited about.
Or early 2000s for that matter, because I'd love to see what they have in mind. Just the kind of mark. I mean, because the 80s has so many pop culture references. The 90s has a lot in itself as well. I mean, as far as pop culture references. But when it comes to the 2000s, I don't want to say it's a forgotten decade, but really, what would you point towards to as far as pop culture in the 2000s? Really, as far as that whole concept, because it's not that far away in our memories, but yet it doesn't stand out as much as what we remember fondly within the 80s and 90s framework. So I'm interested to see which parts of the pop culture consortium that Ernest Cline is going to go ahead and choose from when Ready Player Two is when Ready Player Two drops in November. So I'm excited to see what happens with that. I'm looking forward to it. Pre-order it now. It's available for pre-order on Amazon.com, on BarnesandNoble.com, as Ready Player Two is going to hit in November. I'm sure the film will be coming 1 or 2 years later. By the way, don't forget Josh's book. Congratulations, Gisela, while you're there pre-ordering.
Please, please. Yeah, and if Steven Spielberg's listening to this, the movie rights are all yours. Just shoot me an email. We'll talk numbers.
Fair enough, my friend. But that's Ready Player Two. It's coming in November. We're excited to see where it goes from there. Where into the pop culture cosmos it goes from there as well. What are your thoughts on Ready Player Two? Share us your thoughts. Are you excited to go ahead and read the second in Ernest Cline's novel on the pop culture, cosmos itself? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. A lot of talk there on pop culture. Cannot thank you enough for stopping by once again. Any last thoughts on the way out?
Yes, I have been watching a lot of things because I'm preparing for a project. And so you might notice I'm going to be posting a lot of reviews of some older things. Alan Wake, I'm doing one on Jurassic Park. So check those out, but know that there's something bigger coming around the corner.
I certainly hope so, my friend. I certainly hope so. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great